of the working class that we're see very much today. The kinds of things that Gary Gaines was describing in terms of this city and the ability of workers to represent themselves politically, to represent themselves in the workplace, to represent themselves in relation to things like hospitals, medical care, the building of civic institutions. I was fascinated to see that this monument over here, I don't know how many of you looked at this? How many? Just a couple. Before you go, you should definitely go look at this, because this is a monument to the workers and labor organizations of this city. And that is something that you'll find in many cities, but as here, even you folks who are definitely interested in this stuff, it's very interesting that you haven't taken a look at it and weren't aware of it. So that decline in the cultural side is important, and I think that this event today represents one of the most important things that I think we can do toward moving to create a new labor movement, a new workers movement, a new movement of people trying to steer society towards meeting human need rather than towards greed for the sake of profit. I think a major thing that we can do is to pass on the historical side and the cultural side of working class experience. And I'm thrilled to be part of doing that here today. Now, what are the meanings for today, and what should we be thinking about from the experience of 1877, nationwide and in particular in the St. Louis area? First of all, when it comes to labor in a time of crisis, when conventional unionism has taken such a hit, when so few people are connected with organized labor, I think it is crucial to expect the unexpected. I think we need to recognize that we do not know what form a new labor movement or a new labor resurgence will take. They didn't know in 1877 that there was going to be a great upheaval. In fact, when you read descriptions of the conditions just preceding it, people said, first of all, the unions have been broken, and second of all, every other kind of worker organization has been broken. For example, some of you may have heard of the Molly Maguires, a underground organization among Irish miners. They had been rooted out. There was a trainmen's union that was founded. It had been rooted out. The efforts by workers to organize in many, many different ways had been destroyed. And the railroad, when historians looked at the correspondence among the politicians and the railroad magnates, they found them saying, you know, all this labor problems seem to be gone. You know, they were fighting for a while, but one after another, the railroads have been cutting wages by 10%, and the workers just seem to lie down and take it. Seems like we can do anything we want. And the response to that were the general strikes and upheavals of the July 1877. So I think today also, the fact that what we expect working people to do, the way we expect them to respond to the kind of increasing oppression that we're facing, it may be something very, very different. Just for example, think about the immigrant workers movement that occurred. I remember May Day 3 or 4 years ago, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people out fighting for immigrants' rights. Strikes and general strikes in some places, in general among immigrants, and organized how? Organized with a lot of support from trade unions, organized with a lot of support from groups like Jobs with Justice, organized with a lot of religious groups, many, many different kinds of groups. But how was it primarily organized? By the immigrant radio disc jockeys and talk show hosts. That's really where that movement, why it was, instead of thousands, it was hundreds of thousands, possibly millions. So who would have thought? Nobody expected it. They didn't even expect it. But when people began acting and then looked around and saw that other people were feeling the same way they were feeling, were experiencing the same problems, and were ready to go, then that happened. And I think there's no way that we can know what forms that things like that will take. The most important thing is that we be alert to them, support them, and help broaden their visions and horizons. Some of the elements that occurred in 1877 are things that we definitely need when we think about a new labor movement. One is the need for a more class-wide response. We have unions that are representing very narrow groups of workers. Even within a union, many unions today, you have what the Wobblies, in the industrial workers of the world, used to call the American separation of labor, in which very small groups are fighting for the interests of very small groups, and nobody can bother to pay attention to the wider interests of working people and of people more generally. So that's one piece of what we need. Another, and you can see it again, 1877 in St. Louis makes you think of it, people have to organize themselves. You can have union organizers, you can have people who give speeches, you can have lots of things that may help, but ultimately working people have to organize themselves. That's what they did in 1877 when they created the executive committee for the St.